Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader. And if you're not familiar with Lenormand, I encourage you to subscribe and tune into the channel so that you get amazing messages from this very special deck. In this pick-a-card reading, I am doing a general life overview for you. So I'll be doing a mini tableau. So this is a large spread with lots of juicy details and messages that are going to come through. I'm going to do 3 readings, 3 life overviews, and I suggest that you tune into one. I know sometimes people like to pick several piles, but I think that's best for a specific question. I'm going to suggest that for a general life overview reading that you pick only one so that you have more focus. So I'm going to do 3 readings using 3 different decks. This is the Silhouettes deck, this is the Rana deck, and this is the Titania's Fortune Cards deck. So that will be 1, 2, and 3, and the timestamps, as always, are in the description box. So with this said, why don't you tune in, sit back, relax, and choose your reading, and I will see you in that reading. Okay, starting with the Silhouettes deck. Of course, the deck is shuffled, so just a bit of a shuffle here quickly to seal the intention for a life overview, and I will be doing a mini tableau of 9s. So let's go ahead and deal out this deck. Okay, pile 1 here is your mini tableau of 9s. As you can see, this is a large spread. We have 21 cards here. It is a 3x7 layout, and we call it a mini tableau of 9s. So the focus really is a few challenges for you. We have the whip right in the center of your mini tableau. And the whip is a card of challenges, conflict, and also some degree of aggression. But what comes with that is quite a bit of energy. So this is going to be an active phase for you where there are going to be changes, and also things are going to be thrown up into the surface. So it is no longer a time to wait or rest or, walk around things quietly. This is a time to shake things out and to bring them out into the surface. And we do see that it is going to bring about some changes. So obviously there's plenty to read here. Let's start by contextualizing a little bit the coming phase for you. Notice that we have the Child and Anchor. So this is definitely about a new beginning. You are in for a new beginning, and it is important to step into this. When we look at this card pair in light of the whip, we are clearly seeing a shaking out of the old and a ringing in of the new. And this is actually a really positive message. In the other set of corner cards, we have the Dog and Flowers, and this is bringing in a friendship or a relationship. And specifically, it is suggesting that there is a renewal in a friendship, a renewal in a relationship. Of course, it jumps out to see the man and the woman right next to each other. And this is a very positive message when we look at this triplet for a renewal in a relationship. So far, just looking at the corner cards, and the central card and this key combination here, which is a standout combination, it is clear that there could be a new chapter in a relationship. There could have been a conflict, or there will be a conflict that shakes things up, but there is a renewal in the relationship. So we're looking at making up, forgiveness, and opening a new chapter in this relationship. So what does that mean? It means there is not a separation. There is a bottleneck, a speed bump. Something is brought to the surface, it causes a bit of conflict, but it is an opportunity to actually come closer and to get through this obstacle and to renew the relationship. Now, as it stands, I'm not seeing any specific messages of love other than the fact that we have the man and woman. The Dog is more about friendships, so this might depend on your specifics, what relationship you are looking at exactly. So that is a first lovely message. Now we can look at the central row here. These are the cards that are inside the outer frame of the tableau. And these are some pretty challenging cards. We have the Coffin, the Bird, and then the Whip, Stork, and Cross. So the Coffin and Bird can mean that there was a no contact phase, that this was a time when you had fallen out of communication. But with the bird and whip, there is an argument, a quarrel. It's also possible that it's about gossip, although I'm not so sure that this is the best way of looking at the cards, especially in this line. And then with the stork and cross, there is a release, a relief, and some kind of freedom that comes through. So even though these cards look challenging, actually they are relieving. And it is an important message for getting through this quarrel, this difference that comes up in order to get past it. So we see that there was no contact, and then there is a quarrel, and then there is a liberation. The cross is an important card here. The cross is about matters of destiny and deep lessons. So actually this can be a really important obstacle that you go through in your relationship and possibly in other areas of life as well, because you come out having learned some deep lessons that you are going to be able to integrate. And I say that because of the lily after the cross. And the lily is a card of life path, life phases. So this is going deeper. This is going to be important. And notice that on this side we have the heart. So this too can bring up the idea of the relationship. So it's actually a really clear line. You see how there are plenty of cards here, and sometimes, you know, students get intimidated about how to read the cards, but actually when you know even a basic meaning of the cards, you can put things together in a way that makes sense. So we see here that there could have been a time apart, away from the relationship. You know, the heart and coffin can mean having missed someone on an emotional, loving level. And then we see this no contact phase, the conflict, and then the liberation and the lessons that are integrated into your life. So actually, this is a pretty powerful row. Now, I do think that this is about relationships because we saw the corner cards affecting that, and we have the standout combination here. But with the heart and lily, it can be something broader about your life, where you get past an uneventful phase or a phase where you felt you were stuck. And then finally, you have the aggression of the whip that helps you get unstuck and you move forward in your life in important ways. This can be a really important milestone, mind you. So this can be an important turning point. And I do feel that your reading is quite deep. And of course, this is a mini tableau of 9. So this is a big deal of a spread. So with this line, let's do the central column, because we can then look at the central cross. The central column is a tricky combination. We have the snake and the whip, and this can mean a sharp tongue. And with the book, it can mean a revelation, but I'm also suspecting here that the gossip element comes through more clearly. Here, the idea of learning some information about someone, learning something that maybe someone has said. I have to say that when it comes to relationships, the snake is potentially harmful. The snake can point to a third party or someone in the picture. But I have to say also that with the whip, it's possible that they're blown out of the water, and that the secret that may well be represented by the snake and book is actually revealed. Notice the inner cross, the inner diamond. It's also an inner cross. The inner diamond has to do with the hidden matters. And notice that we have the book and also the stork and the bird, apart from the whip. So I really think that a secret is revealed. Now, with the whip, it can be a bit shocking, it can be a bit perturbing, it might even be upsetting. But it is still a positive combination here to bring things out into the open. And that is what we saw in the central column, in the central row. So with the central column, there is something that is being blown out of the water. Okay, it might be something hurtful, or perhaps it's about a third party in the relationship or some kind of interfering influence, but it is blown out of the water, and it's very likely that it is relieved and released out of the picture. So it depends on the scenario here. Think about your specifics. If there's this third party that might be interfering in your relationship, it's possible that they are finally out of the picture and you can put them behind you and move forward into a new phase of your life. And we see here with the lily, it T-crosses the flowers, lily, and anchor. And this is a beautiful combination for a new lease of life, relief, and a sense of security and confidence that is re-established after this phase here of challenge. So a very beautiful set of cards. Now let's back up to the first cards here. In a tableau, it's always good to get a good sense of where the reading is heading. Look at the Child, Star, and Bear. This is a beautiful first 3 cards for a new lease of life, a new chapter. And it's going to be an important one because of the bear. And notice that this message works really well with the last column here. It's really nice to see this column on the right because the story usually unfolds from earlier to later, from left to right. So the future-most aspects of what's ahead for you in life in general is a beautiful new chapter, a sense of renewal, some wonderful relief here that comes in the wake of a release from a tough situation. Most probably this affects the relationship. So continuing these first 3 cards here, this beautiful wish fulfillment card here, a new lease of life, healing, and a sense of opening into this new chapter. We have the snake, man, woman, and flowers. So clearly this has been a challenging situation. We saw how a T crosses the central row here through the column. So again, I am seeing that there could have been a tough situation with your person in your relationship, but that now there is an opportunity for a renewal. I still think the passage into this renewal is challenging. So you see what I'm saying, right? There is a challenge ahead. There is a bottleneck that you two have to go through in order to get to the other side of this. It can involve a third person where they're blown out of the water, and finally there is a new sense of space where you can pursue your relationship without this external influence. But it's also possible that there are sharp words exchanged, that there is a secret that is uncomfortable, that is revealed. Something needs to come out into the surface, and it needs to be dealt with openly and probably through conflict and disagreements and quarrels in order to get to the other side of it. But again, this is important. I'm not saying that you should avoid this. I'm not saying that you need to postpone this, even though the snake is normally associated with a roundabout, diplomatic kind of approach to deal with things. The whip in the middle really brings out the snake out of the hiding along with the book, and it needs to be blown out of the water. So a positive line, it's really the snake that is tricky, but it is telling us that something comes through and that the issues have to be dealt with, and they are successfully dealt with, and there is forgiveness and a new opportunity here to move into a new phase in the relationship and in life in general. We've looked at the second row. Let's turn to the bottom row. Again, some very beautiful cards in this line. We have the Sun, the Key, and Clover. These are 3 wish fulfillment cards. They deliver on your hopes. They bring desired results. We do have a challenging card, the Mouse, but it is not horribly challenging. It tends to be easy. It just needs to be put in check. And with the book here, again, I'm seeing the same idea of something being hidden that comes out. So notice that the Mouse and book, which has to do with unknowns and also misinformation and doubts. We have the Sun and Key on either side, and then the Clover and Anchor. So again, there is like this misunderstanding or this lack of knowledge or this lack of transparency in an area that is figured out. The Key is an intelligence card. It has to do with things opening up, insight, seeing through. And on top of that, we have the Sun, which is the light and shining on matters, bringing them out into the light. So this is a very beautiful line that points to the idea of understanding, figuring things out, understanding what is going on. We have the Dog at the outset, and then the Clover and Anchor on the other side here. So these are very positive conclusions. These are things coming back to a solid foundation. And we did read this column as suggesting a new phase of life and a new phase of security and confidence. The Dog is the card of friendships, and we read it with the corner card here with the flowers, and it is part of this beautiful line that points to the reestablishment of a relationship. So again, I'm not seeing that the relationship ends. I'm seeing that it is reestablished. It comes back into play after this issue is brought up to the surface and dealt with, or this third party or external influence is dealt with openly. Again, I am seeing a very clear message of having to bring things out into the light. This is absolutely necessary if you want to move forward positively in this relationship. All right, let's move on to the columns. We have the child, heart, and dog. Just like we read the child, star, and bear, the child is a card of beginnings. It is in both lines, and it clearly suggests a new beginning. Now, it can be a new friendship altogether, but because of this renewal element that is coming through your cards, I think this is in an existing relationship. So again, I'm seeing a new lease of life in a friendship, in a relationship, a new opportunity, an opportunity to turn the page and bring back those positive exchanges. Now here's an interesting line. We have the star, coffin, and sun. Both of these cards are two of the brightest cards of the deck. These are all around wish fulfillment and success cards. The coffin, on the other hand, is a card of endings, but also it's about an uneventful phase, a time when things were away, apart, not going anywhere. And we saw this in the central row, and we suggested there was a time apart because of the heart and coffin, and also the bird and coffin. So what I'm seeing here with these very bright cards on either side of the coffin is that it was a good thing to give it time. It was a good thing to be apart for some time because it gave you perspective. It gave you time needed to cool off, to step back and to see things from a different angle. I would also say that this is the light at the end of the tunnel, and also that there's no need to push things because this thing is going to bubble up in time in its own pace, and it will come up. So there's no need to be pushy, but in contrast with the whip, when it does come up, you want to deal with it head on and with a lot of forthrightness and honesty. So allowing things to unfold, but also the light at the end of the tunnel. Now the bear, bird, and mouse, again, I think this is a tough conversation. The mouse and bird can be, this idea of nitpicking each other, maybe some gossipy stuff, maybe bad language, I have to say, or maybe an argument, a bit like what we saw in other lines with the whip. But the bear really makes this an important conversation to be had. So really it's important to understand what is going on, to figure out the things, the big things and the small things, and to get a good sense of the picture. And we did read the snake, whip, and book. Again, this is a confrontation, a conflict, a quarrel. These are stronger cards than the previous row column, but it is still the idea of bringing things out into the open. Both the bird and whip are outward cards. The bird is vocalizing things, whereas the snake and book are hiding them. But it's time to bring them out into the light. The man, stork, and key is actually a lovely combination, and everything we see in this mini portrait here is very lovely. The stork and key bring solutions, success, and light and opening, and so we see that there is cooperation here to have a fruitful conversation so that you can come to a helpful conclusion. And the woman, cross, and clover is also a lovely combination for the woman. The cross and clover are pretty destiny-related cards. They are about deeper matters, and so there's a lot of luck between these two people. You see, there's a lot of positivity that surrounds them. And so this is a very hopeful message that they're both willing to collaborate. So in your relationship, they're willing, you're willing. Once you're past the clarity here, this clarifying phase, you're on the other side of this, pretty literally. And you're back to a common ground and a common conclusion, which we read in the last column. So actually the unfolding of your mini tableau of nines is quite coherent and logical in terms of what could happen between two people. I definitely think this is a time for honesty. Honesty is the best policy, and once you've clarified the issues and you've gotten past this, the differences or the quarrel here, you are both on a new page and there is a renewal in the relationship. And when we look at this portrait here, this is the portrait where we have the man and woman. They figure together. You look at everything around them, around the cross. It is all positive messages. So the key cross and flowers, the man cross and anchor. This is a supportive relationship. The woman cross and clover, like we said, and the stork cross and lily, all pointing to an important phase in your life and a successful resolution of the relationship. Notice the earlier portrait, the first one here where we have the coffin in the middle. It points to a new beginning, but it also points to a phase of challenges, a phase where there was no contact because of the coffin in the middle. But we also have some really bright cards in here. We have the heart, sun, and stars. So I think this relationship is meant to stick. It is meant to be. The issues are temporary. There may have been a good reason for them, but really you can look forward to a resolution. And then we can look at the central portrait in here where we have the whip. So this is the key because the whip is at the center of your whole tableau anyway. And so this is the tough part. The tough part is looking at this portrait where we have the whip in the center and there is the mouse, whip, and man. So again, the confrontation, we have the snake, whip, and book, bringing things out into the open, the bear, whip, and key, really having to crack that whip, as we say, because that is what's going to open up matters and bring them into resolution. So a very powerful set of cards here and a clear message that the issues need to be brought to the surface so that they are whipped out, cleared out, figured out, and then once you're past this, you can move on to it. So really, for this life overview, there is a strong focus on relationships. Now, it doesn't mean that other things can't be happening. Like I said, I think this can be affecting your life in a strong way. We do have more portraits in here. We have the bird and we have the cross. The bird is a card of communication, and we see that there are some issues with communication. We've got the coffin, whip, and snake around the bird. We also have the book. So it could have been a time of silence when things weren't clear, when things weren't being vocalized. But I also want to suggest to you that if you're going to have a conversation, it's important maybe that you figure out your thoughts first before you express. And also I want to suggest that you make it a point to come from a point of compassion and also wanting to resolve things, not just having a conversation for the sake of it. So really focusing on being productive about this and making sure there's a positive conclusion. The cards are also pretty social. So with the corner cards as the dog and flowers, we can disconnect the dog from everything that's going on here in this relationship and look at it as an idea of making new relationships and connecting with people, getting to know them, and just opening up some opportunities for you. I also think it might be a good idea over the next phase to do some studying, to do some learning. We see this clearly in the bottom row. If you want to polish up on your profile, on your skills, or maybe indulge in a topic that is interesting to you, you might want to just do this over the coming phase. And in the process, you'll probably meet some people and have fun with that. It is an opportunity for learning. I also think that it's important that you clear out of your life some of the negative elements. So if there are negative people, gossipy types, toxic people, I think it's time to get them out of your life. This is definitely a good time for a new chapter, and this works well with the idea of meeting new people. So it can be also a powerful phase for releasing issues, releasing matters, releasing people, decluttering, and really creating space for something new. Or something better. And I think this relationship of yours here is also part of that. So you want to clear out the clutter in your life and, the negativity, if there's any of that, so that you can make space for yourself, for this new chapter in your life, and for this relationship that is actually worth your time, as opposed to those other messages those other people, that might not be, that are not supportive. I also think that your sense of diplomacy, how effectively you communicate. Transactions, exchanges might be put to the test over the next phase for you. So this is also a good time to polish yourself up, to clarify what you mean, to speak well, and to express clearly. Again, this ties into this whole situation with this person, but also more generally in your life, it is an opportunity to clear things up. And it also comes in the context of making new connections, learning, enhancing your profile, enhancing your skills. So that is a beautiful set of cards as well. So overall, I think in focus for you over the next phase is a relationship, a key quarrel that brings up something important, but also that helps you clarify it. I'm seeing a renewal in the relationship, a sense of forgiveness, and some kind of growing and a renewal in your sense of security and foundation. So that is really, really positive for this relationship. Also, more broadly, it's time to get rid of negative stuff, things that you don't use, toxic people, useless people, gossip, all of that. It's time to move away from and to turn that into an opportunity to meet new people, and probably people whom you have more in common with. It is also an opportunity to learn stuff, polish up your skills. This can open up new doors for you, and probably opportunities that you might not anticipate yet. So these are some really good guides and highlights that we're seeing for you for your life ahead. We can wrap up with a few diagonals just for additional clues. We have the child, coffin, mouse, and whip. So obviously this is a challenging set of cards that is pointing to an ending. And then this ties into the man, cross, and anchor. Now, the anchor is pretty powerful here because it is about staying, keeping. And so again, I'm seeing that when it comes to at least this relationship here, even though there is a tough bottleneck, I think the relationship is safe and it is meant to stick, it is meant to stay. But this isn't to say that if there are some, crappy folks in your life, you might want to get rid of them at this stage, like we suggested, also more generally. And the other long diagonal is the dog, coffin, and bear into the whip, key, cross, and flowers. So again, the flowers being the card of renewal, we are seeing a confirmation of this tough bottleneck. Here it is the coffin, bear, and whip that bring the challenge, and this is an important ending, but also an important confrontation. The bear can be associated with an enemy, competition, and that kind of energy. Of course, that's not what we're saying here. Well, actually, we could. Hang on. But what we're saying in the first reading is that it's important to stand up to this. So again, the idea of confronting matters. Things were on hold because of the coffin, but now it's important to shake them out and to understand them. And we see that with the key, cross, and flowers, there is some pretty powerful understanding and insight that comes through. The key and cross are two of the spiritual cards of the deck, so they bring in some, key lessons, deeper insights, and probably a stronger connection in the relationship. But to backtrack a bit, when we said that there could be an enemy because of the bear, it might be with the snake. And like I said, the snake in relationships can be a really tricky person. It can be someone who's interfering in the relationship. It can be dishonesty, a third party, even straight out cheating. And I have to say that with the bear and snake and with the whip, it's possible that this is an issue. So to backtrack on this set of diagonals, what could be happening here is that this third party is actually ending. The relationship with this third party is out of the picture now, and with the key, cross, and flowers, there's a renewal in the relationship. I have to say that it's possible that, there could have been a third party interfering in your relationship, and this is a seriously challenging thing to deal with. But the good news is that I think they are shaken out. They're the ones who are sloughed off the relationship so that you can renew yours. So you secure your relationship, and this threat, this enemy or this competitor is out of the picture finally. So a bit of a tough bottleneck, but one that comes out very positively for you. We can also look at a couple of other diagonal sets. We have the heart, sun, into the bird, snake, stork, clover, and lily. So the bottleneck again is here, and remember these are the cards around the whip. The bird and snake can be challenging in terms of the conversation. Again, there could have been some difficult words exchanged, but I really like the heart and sun and the clover and lily on the other side of this because they help you get past this and heal the situation. And the other set of cards or diagonals is here. We've got the heart and star. Again, these are three very beautiful cards coming together here into the bird, book, stork, woman, and lily. Now, this is a lovely combination. The bird, book, and stork is definitely a revelation. And it does point to things being brought out into the surface and clarified. And really the heart and stars and all around wish fulfillment combination, especially for love and relationships. And we see that the relationship pursues here with the lily, which is a card of the long term and the life path. To wrap up, I just want to look at more diamonds here. We have the coffin, snake, cross, and book, and that's because we read the inner diamond, the fact that things were not revealed. We're still seeing it in this one as well, where the coffin, snake, cross, and book is really a message of secrecy and something important that is what is going to be revealed. I think that this has been on hold for some time. It sounds like you've been struggling with this, but thankfully the whip really helps shake things out and bring it out into the surface. But again, the cross suggests it is really important, and this can be a really tricky matter that you're dealing with. And finally, these beautiful cards here, we have the heart, snake, lily, and book. It's really the heart that lightens things up. The snake and book can still point to something secret, but the heart and lily is a beautiful pair of cards pointing to happiness moving forward. The way I would read this in the context of everything else is that you want to be patient for things to be revealed. And we saw this with the coffin as well. The thing is, in contrast with the whip, the way to put it together is that you have to be patient for it to bubble up and to come out. But then once it comes out, you can deal with it in a straightforward way, and you don't want to back down or back away from the conversation. It's important. There is something bubbling beneath the surface. It really needs to be dealt with. It is potentially toxic, and so it's very important to deal with it now or as soon as the opportunity presents itself. But again, even though the transition is tough and the conversation is tough, I really think you come out on the other side of this with a strong sense of foundation, security, well-being, happiness, and I really believe that the relationship is saved, and this external influence or the secret or whatever it is specifically in your scenario is brought out, dealt with, and removed so that you're past it into this new phase in your relationship. So some very beautiful messages for you despite a tough transition. Silhouettes group, I want to encourage you to give this situation a chance. Be willing to have the conversation when it comes up, and then be willing to forgive and shake things out and move into this wonderful new phase. So let me know how you like these thoughts and ideas. I'm really looking forward to your comments. Very best of luck with this, and until our next reading together, take very good care of yourself. If you enjoy this reading, please subscribe, share, and like the video, and stay tuned for more videos. The Lenormand deck is very unique and special, and the messages it delivers can be very empowering and very on point. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'm so looking forward to our next reading together. Okay, this is for the Rana George deck. This is the second reading, pile 2 if you like. And we are drawing a mini tableau of 9s. This is a large spread of 21 cards. So my deck is always shuffled, just a little bit more shuffling to seal the intention. We are getting a life overview, an open-ended kind of view of what's ahead for you. And let's go ahead and deal out these cards. Okay, here is your mini tableau of 9s. There's a lot of exciting things happening here. I am seeing a new beginning that is at play for you. And this really comes through the central card of your tableau. This is the child, and the child is about new beginnings. We also have the stork as your first card, which is a card of changes. And we have the beautiful clover that corner cards with it as a lot of wonderful luck happening. Now in the other two corner cards, we have the Lily and Mountain, and this makes me wonder if you're not looking into prospects of being in a different location, possibly moving, going abroad somewhere, even if it's just temporarily. So you could be in for travel. There can be some changes that you're looking to make on the short term, but changes that involve maybe your location. That is possible. Now, one thing that stands out to me is the Stork and Child, along with the Clover. The Stork and Child is the combination of pregnancy normally. And although it's not enough cards to get that indication in and of itself, if this is something you're looking to do, like to have a child or to grow your family, then this could be a really good time for it. We have the beautiful Clover here, that corner cards with the Stork to support this with the child. And when we look at the Child and Mountain, so connecting the central cards with the corner cards, this can be a very important beginning in your life, and also one whose importance you do not yet see. So the Child and Mountain is a special combination that points to a new chapter that is unfolding, but you do not yet know how important this is going to be for you over the long term. And what's also interesting is that we have the Lily, and the Lily is the card of life path. It's about the bigger things in life, the bigger picture. So you could be turning the page at this point and moving into an important beginning, one whose importance you do not yet see. Now there is a relationship element coming through the dog and the ring, but it does come with challenging cards. We have the Snake and the Coffin. So we're going to see that perhaps a relationship ends. And we also have the Whip at the top here that can point to challenges and probably quarrels and separations, especially when we look at it in the central column here. But when we look at it in the top row, it might not have the same indication. We do have the Road as well. This is a card of changes, and the Fox can be tricky, and notice that it is also next to the Dog, which is a card of friends. So that too can highlight someone who turns out to be a disappointment, and I think you are going to move on from them. I have to say that this column here is very beautiful. We have both the Sun and the Clover. These are two of the brightest cards of the deck. And we have the Mountain here that can point to a place abroad, especially with the Sun, which can be related to a summer holiday or just a holiday, going somewhere warm and nice. And so this can be a very liberating situation here, following the challenges that we see earlier, or the few challenges that we see earlier. So let's go ahead and weave this tableau from the ground up, from the details and the different lines. So let's start with the top row. When we look at the first three cards, which sort of set the tone and the direction of the tableau, we have very bright cards. The Key and Moon is definitely an indication of success and also of honors and really receiving the appreciation and recognition that you're entitled to. And with the Stork here, it does kink things off for you. It does renew your enthusiasm and your encouragement to make changes in your life that are going to move you to the next chapter. I also think that this combination can mean that you figure something out, that you get the green light to move forward. So we're definitely seeing things being kicked off for you. If things were on hold, you can look forward to them moving forward. If things were confused or you weren't sure in which direction you're going to head into, you figure it out and you're able to move forward. The Moon is a really nice card. It's a gentle, soft, kind card. And with the Whip here, it does soften it a little bit. So the Whip is a card of challenge. It is in the middle of the top row. And we also see it with the Bear. The Bear can bring up someone like a competition, possibly an enemy if we're going to push it, but really someone who sort of stands in your way. And with the Whip here, it is a powerful message of a confrontation. Now what's interesting is the rest of the line. We have the Heart and Mountain. There's a couple of ways to look at this. The Heart and Mountain can refer to someone who's abroad, and someone whom you might have some affection for. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it is a special connection, possibly in the making, but maybe established. And the thing about the whip and coffin here, the whip and bear, sorry, is that there can be a challenge that comes up in this area. I am suspecting that you might be looking into making changes in order to connect with this person. But I also want to hold off on this because I want to read it in the context of what's going on in the bottom row and the central column, where we see someone who is really disappointing and probably someone who is doing stuff behind your back. The snake is a very tricky card in this sense, and we do have the dog and coffin. So we're looking at the end of a relationship here. So it can tie into what's going on here as well. So let's hold off on that and move on to the next line. In the next line, we have the road, tree and tower into the child, fox, bird, and sun. So I really think that this is a change that is happening. The road, tree, and tower are sort of long-term kinds of cards where we see that your path, this path that you have been in is about to change into a new one because we have the child, which is a card of new beginnings. And the fox, bird, and sun can suggest a trip somewhere. It can also point to conversations, negotiations, and also job prospects or other kinds of projects, depending on how you do your work. But I also think that with the fox, bird, and sun, it's important that you no longer put your priorities on the back burner, that you start prioritizing your goals and maybe be a bit more self-interested, maybe a little bit more selfish. It's just that you've been on this for a long time and you're ready for a change, and a change is coming and you want to move on. But the idea is that you move on in ways that are actually constructive to you. So the bird and sun really brings clarity, and with the fox here, it can mean being diplomatic in certain conversations or negotiations that are going to shine the light on anything that has been unclear or confusing so that you can actually move forward. So definitely a new beginning is coming through in the cards, and I think that it is time to release a past chapter. The thing about these cards is that they're kind of slow, and there's no need to rush into anything. And certainly when we look at the T-cross here with the central column, it's going to bring an added dimension, I think, to what's going on, because these are some pretty tricky cards. So again, let's keep going in layers and see what we're building here. In the bottom row, I'm seeing a very clear message of the end of a relationship. We have the coffin on the other side of the relationship cards. We have the ring and the dog, but we also have the rider and snake. So really, with the rider, which is a movement card and a messenger, and it's also associated with sexuality sometimes. It tends to be associated with a gay relationship, honestly, and it's possible that this could be coming through. But because of the challenging cards here, I feel that it is more about a disappointment, and especially since we have the coffin on the other side of all of these relationship cards. So I really think this can be the end of a relationship. It is time to move on. There could have been a disappointment, and I have to put it out there. There could have been someone else who came into the picture and possibly, took the attention of your partner or your friend. The lily and ring can mean that this has been a long-standing relationship or a long-standing situation in the relationship. But I think at this point, you see that it is time to end it. Despite the challenges here, we have the beautiful clover at the end of the line. So the clover is one of the luckiest cards of the deck. This is very much about luck and also blessings in disguise. It is a confirmation that, especially in this position, it is a confirmation that it is the right thing to move on from this and to put it behind you and to let go. Also, the snake is pretty opposite to the whip. So the whip is an aggressive card. It is loud, it is outspoken, it's really outward. The snake is inward, it's secretive, it is silent, and it sort of goes within. So it does come in contrast with the whip. But I think that what could be happening here is that Despite the challenges, or even if there was like a quarrel or a confrontation, there is a point where you just let it go and move on, and you just go your own way. There's no need, as they say, to beat a dead horse. So if you've made your point, that's it, move on. There's no need to keep chewing over it, and just let it go. And the snake being a card of silence and discretion and diplomacy, there's only so much confrontation that you need to do. I think that the moon next to the whip also helps that. So it helps minimize the intensity of the whip. It helps soften it. And the snake being opposite, it helps also minimize the intensity. But in all cases, the bottom row is very clearly suggesting the end of a relationship, the need to move on from someone who is disappointing or not what you thought they were, and know that this is the right thing to do. And we don't only have the beautiful clover at the end of the line, but we also have the sun on top of it in the column that it figures in. So let's continue now with the columns, speaking of the columns. Now, Stork Road and Lily is definitely a change of direction. The road is about travel, the stork is also about travel, and together they point to being at crossroads and making changes, making choices. And so this is now the time to meet the fork in the road and to change directions. The thing about the lily, it can refer to your work. Maybe you're changing jobs, that is possible. And with the fox and the cards, that is also possible. This column is going to be interesting for the job. It can suggest a promotion, but it can also affect your life path in general. So we're looking at deeper changes that you're making, and keep in mind the corner cards in conjunction with the child in the center. So this is a turning point for you that is ahead for you. The key, tree, and ring. This is a beautiful combination because the tree and key is a special combination in my dictionary that points to achieving a very important goal. And when we see it with the ring, it can be achieving a very important goal with respect to a relationship. So again, the ring is part of the line that shows an ending. And also we're going to draw some diagonals, and we'll see that the ending is highlighted, and it's important, and it's meant to be, and it should happen. So I have to read this column in conjunction with these other messages. And the idea here is that you've reached a very important point in your decision about this relationship. I also feel that the lessons have been learned and that you have grown from this and that you've likely outgrown it at this point. So some very important milestones are going to be achieved. Now, if this isn't about a relationship, or it can be about other situations as well, the ring can be associated with your commitments, your involvements, and with the key and ring, with the key and tree, it indicates that you've achieved a very important goal. It also suggests that you keep doing the right things because they are leading you to major achievements. So these are very positive cards any way you look at them and for any context. Now we have the moon, tower, and rider. So this is a message that comes through because the rider is a messenger card. Usually delivers information or also helps things move forward. And with the tower here, which is associated with the past, and the moon, which is a gentle and soft and kind card, I feel there can be some clarity that comes through about the past. And remember, we have the whip and we have the snake, dog, and coffin here, which point to an ending. So I feel that there could have been a situation that wasn't clear or that was affecting you in some way. And at this point, it comes through and there is more clarity about the situation. Now, the central column is a key column, of course, because it's right in the middle and it's part of the central cross of the tableau. And this is a pretty challenging line. Really, the whip and snake is very clearly telling us that this is the end of a relationship. And with the child, this is a new beginning. So I really feel that the message is clear, and I don't think you should hang on if you're inclined to. Maybe you're the one who's ending it, and if this is the case, then you have very supportive and encouraging cards telling you that this is the right thing to do and telling you that you will be happy that you did, because we have this beautiful column that wraps up the tableau on the left side. So this is a challenging like a central turning point. It is challenging, but it is important that you make your peace with it and that you acknowledge that this is where you're at. Now in this column, we have the bear, fox, and dog. I have to say that in terms of work and jobs, this can be a really good situation for you. A promotion is possible, and you could be maybe hiring if you're in business for yourself. This is a really good combination for empowerment on the job. And the job is a possible theme that comes through. Certainly, if we looked at the fox as at the center of this portrait, it does bring up the job. In this case, we have the whip and coffin, which is pretty challenging, and we also have the snake and heart, which points to envy, by the way. But I do think when we look at the central cross of this portrait, this does point to a new beginning for you on the job. And that is possibly happening in addition to, the other things that we're looking at, like this life change and this new chapter. But I do think that this can be challenging because of the whip and coffin with the fox between them. This is pointing to an ending, and certainly with the snake and heart, we are looking at envy. On top of that, we have the fox as well. The fox and snake can be similar when it comes to diplomacy, envy, and that sneaky kind of energy. So we're seeing this here. But when we look at the middle cross, you're in for a new beginning, possibly on the job that involves a promotion. But in the case of the relationship, that seems to be the key or the main thing happening for you over the coming phase. This can also be a tricky line. Like we said, the fox and snake are similar. And on top of that, the bear can be an obstacle, a competition, almost sometimes even an enemy. With a card like the whip, it's possible. So we see here the characteristics of this person that you're going to let go of. This is someone who is a rival, okay? This is someone who does not have good intentions towards you. They're competing with you. And I think this is the person that drops out of your life at this point. And again, this is what you should do. This is what you should focus on putting behind you. It's important to move on from this person. They're just not a good person. They're overbearing. At the same time, they do things behind your back, or they say things behind your back. They're just a really negative energy, seriously. With the fox and snake and this combination and this one, and then next to the whip, and the snake and heart, it's just really, we're getting confirmations that you want to move on from this. And it is going to be really liberating. In this column, I have additional messages that support this. The bird and coffin is the end of a communication, and the heart here, it can bring a bit of heavy emotions because of the bird, anxiety, a bit of pain, some regret. But again, with the bird and coffin, it is on the right track to no longer be in touch and no longer communicate with this person. The birds are a communication card. They're everything vocal and talking and all of that. But when we see it with the coffin, it's time to end this contact. And the heart adds this dimension of a bit of a heavier emotion here. But like we said a few times already, with the mountain, sun, and clover, these are beautifully relieving cards. This is all around success. The mountain and sun can mean achieving the top, reaching the top kind of metaphor. And with the clover, we have an added element of success and good fortune. So there is a challenging bottleneck that you go through. It involves releasing someone, and you'll be on the other side of this soon enough, and you will know that you did the right thing. It is absolutely the right thing to move on from this relationship that is looking to be toxic, heavy, and really just about useless. Now, there are more messages that we're going to read through the diagonals and the diamonds, but I want to go over these cards so far and talk a little bit about the work aspect. I think the work aspect can be highlighted for you. I think when it comes to work, you do pretty well. It's an opportunity to grow, but I have to say that you're not without envy and competition for what you're after. But still, I think you are the one who achieves it. When we look at the central row in this sense, we have the tree and tower, which are also elevation kind of cards. This idea of growth and going up. We have the bear, fox, and dog. That is also about promotion. The bear is about authority and bosses and management. So again, another message of growing up. And then in this column, that additional message of reaching the top and that all-around success. The clover also has an element of protection. So I think this is good in terms of envious people and, some negativity that's directed towards you, your success and your achievements. And also we have the key tree and ring, which is beautiful for achieving a very important goal. So I think you're in for major achievement, promotions, growth, that sense of stepping up to a next level. In addition to the challenges that we saw in a relationship that you need to move past and put behind you so that you can, pursue this wonderful new chapter that you're in for. So these are some really good cards. Now, looking at some diagonals, these diagonals, they tend to highlight the portraits. We have complete portraits around the central cards here, and these are the cards that are inside the outer frame of the tableau. We have the tree, tower, the child, fox, and bird. So again, these are great cards for work. The bird can be a bit anxiety provoking, just maybe you're going to be really busy over the next phase. I think it's important that you stick with your disciplines, your to-do list, and really be, consistent and disciplined until you achieve everything. Just work on checking things off. And when we look at the tree portrait, for example, we are definitely seeing a step up. We've got the stork, tree, and rider. That's growth. Again, the idea of promotion coming through here. The tower and tree, the rider and tower, the rider and ring, and also the lily, that is all about maturity and, that sense of, growing up, very much coming through this portrait. Something similar around the tower portrait. It's just that the snake and the whip are in the picture. So I think you will have to release the past. We see this through the whip and tower and the snake and tower. And the one with the ring, again, highlights this relationship. So when we tie it into here, we're seeing releasing a long-standing relationship. But the key, as the first card of the portrait, is very supportive. And of course, we have the portrait around the child. Obviously, this is an important one because it's the central card. And the child with the moon and dog is positive for a new connection, a new friendship, and also a new employee or a new colleague, if that's what you're moving into. And the rider, child, and bear, again, highlights this importance. We saw the challenge in the central column here. Again, making these changes seem to come in the wake of a separation where a relationship or an involvement is clearly released. And we've looked at the one around the fox. The one around the bird is, I think, hopeful. The bird and clover, along with the bear, is lovely for positive communications. I think you're a bit busy and maybe the responsibilities are going to weigh on you, but you're definitely up for this. And the dog, bird, and mountain can mean a trip, a brief one, even if it's short, or it can mean communication, internationally or online and things like that. So again, we're seeing this engagement and the busyness that you're about to get into. So being vocal and speaking out and, expressing yourself is going to be important. I just think that because of cards like the fox and snake, you want to make sure that you're speaking right, you're expressing yourself well, and that you think before you speak and things like that. Just being diplomatic and thoughtful in your communication. Again, in this portrait, we have the heart and coffin. So there are some people that are going to fall out of the picture. A really clear indication here in the bottom row, like we suggested several times. So, tying in these diagonals, we get some pretty positive messages. We have the snake here, ties into the one with the road, very much a releasing of the past. And the fox, heart, and sun is probably a sense of relief from this toxic relationship that you've been in, or it has been part of your life for a while. A bit of a heavy heart here I'm seeing because of the fox and snake, but it's going to be okay soon enough. So really just bear with that. And then the inverted one, or the opposite set, is the road ring, tower, and whip. Again, we're seeing this past connection, past relationship that is, being challenged. And then we have the fox and coffin. Again, very clear set of cards here, pointing to an ending. And with the beautiful sun, there is that sense of relief and healing that comes through. So very positive. We do have more sets of diagonals. We have the lily, tree, into the moon, child, dog, bird, mountain. So again, this is about this new phase that is coming in. Sense of maturity coming through the lily and tree. And the moon child is this new phase, like the phases of the moon. The dog, bird, and mountain can mean new relationships and new connections. And then finally, in terms of diagonals, we have the stork, tree, and rider. Like we said, this is a promotion and growth and the step up into the child, bear. So this is an additional message here of growth and promotion into the bird and clover. So I think here there's quite a bit of excitement for you as you move into this next level up. So very, very beautiful cards. Now there are a few more clues that we get out of the diamonds. We've got the tower, whip, fox, and snake. So this is definitely a fallout. I mean, there's no two ways of looking at this. The snake and fox and the whip, there are three challenging cards. And with the tower here, it can point to a long-standing relationship that falls through. The tree, whip, bird, and snake can point to a tough conversation, an argument, and probably some biting words. But then with the road and sun and then the whip and snake, there is that relief that comes through the sun. So it is important to move on from this and to let it go and to put it behind you, because you're in for healing and relief. Just have faith that this is happening for you. So there's quite a few exciting messages for you coming up. And I can't say that it's all easy or very smooth, but it is really about shaking yourself out of a tricky situation with a person who has proved to be toxic. It's really time to move on from this. You are in for a new beginning. You could be getting a promotion, stepping up, making some big changes, and gaining more responsibilities, sort of like stepping up in life. And I think this is going to attract envy. And in the process, there's just some things that are no longer fitting with you, in this new level. So keep going down your path. You are in for growth. This can be a very important phase. Like we said, it can be something whose importance you do not yet see, but it is really important to move past the issues now, letting go of this relationship and embracing the future that is very bright and that involves a greater sense of empowerment for you. So let me know how you like these ideas and these thoughts. Leave me your comments. I'm very much looking forward to them. And if you've enjoyed this reading, then please like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned to Lenormand's messages. It is a very unique deck that brings very helpful messages that are often really, really on point. So thank you again. And until we meet again, take very good care of yourself. Okay, here we are with Titania's fortune cards, and we are doing a mini tableau of nines for a life overview, what is ahead for you in general. So of course my deck is always shuffled, just shuffling a little bit more to set the intention, and let's go ahead and deal out this tableau. Okay, here is your tableau. I am seeing a lot of messages, actually. I think this is a tableau that's covering several areas of life. We do have the life card in the center, the lily. It is about life and life path. It's also about career. So your work and your project and what you dedicate your life to as a vocation is in focus over the coming phase. I think that because of this column, I'm getting this, I'm getting the sense that you need to move away from something and get busy with your life. And I think this could have been a relationship, because we have a couple of challenging cards on either side of the man. And we also have the woman in the bottom row. So the idea of a relationship is coming through, especially when both cards show up. It's like a relationship, usually a love relationship. We also have the dog and we have the house, and these cards also bring up relationships. There are powerful messages for success, especially this column. But there is also a situation that remains unresolved and unclear. And I'm seeing this through this column. So I think there's several things going on here. There's a few layers. And there is a focus on you, your life, and your vocation, and having to, I think, of course, we're going to confirm that when we get through the details, moving away from a certain situation and letting it go while you get busy with other things. Now, the corner cards stand out. We have the coffin and the garden, and this points to being away from community, society, any social environment. The coffin is your first card, so it covers you very straightforwardly. And when we see it with a garden as a pair, it is definitely about staying away from a group of people. Now, also notice that we have the snake and mouse, and this too is a combination of staying away, especially with the snake. The mouse points to mistrust, issues, little glitches here and there, but the snake makes it a bit stronger. And we could be looking at a toxic situation here, falling out of a relationship because of the garden and the other cards. But I am seeing through your corner cards that it is really key at this stage to really stay away from a certain environment. And it is not a particularly social time. So apart from staying away from, toxic environments, people that aren't aligned with you, it is also more of a solo time. And the lily can be a little bit solo. The tree is solo as well, although we have relationship cards here. But your corner cards are very clear in contextualizing this reading in terms of taking time out and moving away from a certain group of people, from certain types of people, and maybe even a single relationship that is simply not aligned at this point. Okay, and we looked at the lily. We said this is focusing you, your life path, getting busy with it while you move away from this stuff. Now, the first three cards are helpful with creating some kind of feel for the tableau. And we read the coffin, but we also have the tree and house. I think this is really about spending time at home with yourself. And again, I feel this is an inward time for you more than anything else. The tree and house are actually a positive pair. This is very good for growing and creating foundations and feeling stable and secure. And when I look at this in the context of these cards here, I feel that you need to stay away from a certain group of people, from some people, from a toxic situation or a toxic person, so that you find yourself again and reestablish your foundations. You could be building something, and again, this works well with the career card in the center. And really, this is what could be your focus over the coming phase. It might take a bit of time, so you want to get comfortable with it, really grow your roots and your habits around it. Now, what's interesting is the stork on the other side of the house. And we also have the scythe. Yes, we have the man and mouse, but if I just stop at the scythe, these two cards, they really stand out. And in terms of the coffin and scythe, it really points to a house move. You could be moving homes, and this might work well with the coffin and garden as well. The idea that you're leaving, that you're changing your situation. If it's not a straight up move, relocation, and things like that, maybe you're renovating and making changes in your surroundings. Now, adding the man and mouse here, this is definitely the end of a relationship, or at least, if not a final end, it is a fallout. It is some kind of disagreement. There could be a shock. There is maybe like a tough situation that comes up with this person. The mouse with the scythe can mean maybe something hurtful, and I feel that this could be directed to you, but I also think that this person feels this way too. So I think that they're hurt, and he's upset about something. Maybe he is implicated in your living situation, or your current circumstances. And as you make changes in your circumstances, perhaps he is affected by that. Maybe he doesn't want you to leave. Maybe it has an impact on him in one way or another, depending on your specifics. But I think that in relation to the changes that you're making here, the fact that maybe you're leaving or you're no longer involved in this group, I think this person is affected by this. I think he might want you to stay in the loop, to stay in this circumstance, in this situation or this group, and he doesn't want you to leave. And of course, it could be a situation of like a disagreement with this person as well. So several possibilities here, depending on your specifics with this person. But change and movement and ending a connection, ending a location, these are very clear through the corner cards and through the top row so far. Moving on to the second row. The second row is a bright line. There are plenty of positive cards in here. We have the key, we have the flowers and the moon, and the rest of the cards are more or less neutral. So the overall feel of the line is one of positivity. Now the dog is a card of friendships, and when we see it with the lily, it's possible that this has to do with your professional life. Maybe this is about colleagues or partners, people whom you work with and in your peer group. And when we look at the cards that surround this dog, we're looking at some very bright messages. The key with the bird is positive conversations, solution-oriented discussions, collaborations, teamwork. And with the lily and flowers and moon, I am seeing here a creative element. This works really well with the lily because both the flowers and the moon are creative. The book is about writing and research and education as well. And so when we're looking at this line overall, we are seeing some really positive message with regards to your creativity. And I think that people collaborate with you, they contribute, or you contribute to them. And also I think you get appreciation and positive feedback from people for your work. So again, I'm seeing here the message that you want to focus on your thing, moving away from this circumstance here, these people, this group, or whatever it is, and really focus on doing your own thing, because you're going to find that it evolves well, it develops well, you're building something solid, like we said in the first 3 cards. Maybe it takes a bit of time, but you still get support and positive feedback, and it is a beautiful time for creativity. So it's really worth your time to stay away from negativity and focus on your own productivity. Now the bottom row brings in people again, and we have the woman in here, but we also have the snake. I have to say the snake is not very good in relationships. It points to a rival, someone envious. In love relationships, it points to someone who's maybe trying to interfere in the relationship. Even as far as deception and cheating, these are possible. But we do have the sun, so actually this can bring out the bright side of the snake, which is someone who is very goal-oriented, someone who knows what they want. And I think this protects you. Now, I don't know if you're either one of these cards, but it's possible. And still, the sun brings beautiful messages as well. So the sun shines light and it clarifies. And with the snake here, which is usually a card of secrecy, it is possible that something that was hidden comes out into the light. However, the clouds is a somewhat challenging card. The clouds is associated with confusion, nebulous affairs, things that are not clear. And I feel that this can indeed be a rival or someone who's envious. When I look at the sun as a T crosses you achieving a very important goal, I see that there could be some disconcerting elements here. I think people might be upset by the fact that you're moving away from them and pursuing your own thing. We also have this man who is upset here. So something similar can happen with this woman. So I don't know if this is a pair or if it's just the 2 people cards representing other people in your life. It depends, but we are seeing that others are thinking about how you're not in the loop anymore and you're going off and doing your own thing. But again, I want to encourage you to keep doing your own thing. You know, the coffin is your first card. Now, the anchor, bear, and garden is a solid triplet here, pointing to a sense of community, but really standing strong in a place. And so I think maybe here people are wondering about where you stand relative to this social environment here. It's possible that you have or had a strong standing, you know, that you were a person of influence, that people look up to you because we have the bear and anchor. And I think maybe people want you to stay in here, you know, because the anchor is the card of staying put. And with the clouds here, people are wondering, maybe where did you go? So I think that is a very possible way of looking at the cards. Another way to read this line is that you want to establish yourself. So we said, look at these cards. Tree house, very strong, very firmly rooted. Same, anchor and bear in this garden here. So I feel that this is about you finding your ground. This is you finding your ground. And it is about moving away from influences, especially negative influences, that could affect where you stand in life, where you stand for yourself. So really, with the lily in the center here, it really clarifies the idea that you are reevaluating matters for yourself. And I do think that you want to stay away from a certain environment and establish yourself on your own. You know, like going off on your own. Yes, it's going to attract envy. I think some people don't want you to go off and do your own thing. But I think you should. I think you should stick with that. So let's move on to the columns. We have lots coming through the columns. In the first column here on the left, we have a clear message of moving away and no longer communicating. So the bird is a communication card, but both the coffin and the snake are more about silence. So we see here that there was either a communication breakdown or that you moved away and no longer in touch with certain people or this group, like we saw with the coffin. The tree, key, and sun is a smashing success combination. This is all around success and it's achieving a very important goal. So again, I feel that this is about you, your goals, and no longer maybe being part of another group. Like now you need to focus on your thing, you know, doing your own thing. The house, dog, and woman points to a friendship, and I think these are the closer friendships that you're going to stick with, as opposed to the broader community that is represented by the garden. So it seems that there is a specific person here who comes into the picture. We saw the bottom row. She T-crosses the bottom row. I'm not so sure how well intended she is, but it can refer to different people, you know, whereby there are some people who are envious and others who are supportive. This is totally fine and normal. So make sure you are selective about your friendships. The stork, lily, and clouds is definitely changes and possibly even life changes. And again, with the clouds, maybe not everything is clear or settled, but that's the process. This is what you're going through. This is about reestablishing yourself, finding your direction again, reevaluating and assessing, you know, certain things in your life, certain objectives, how far you've come, where you're going next. Definitely changes are due, and even if it's a bit of a transition or a bottleneck and you don't have all the answers, you know that things can't stay the same and you need to move on and make changes. Now the scythe, flowers, and anchor is quite an interesting pair or triplet, because the scythe and anchor has to do with freedom. So I think of these cards as releasing the ball and chain. You know, where the anchor is that card that keeps you down, but the scythe is the card that releases you from that. And the flowers is a beautiful card of freedom, renewal. It is a festive card of joy, parties, happiness, all around, enthusiasm. And it is a card of renewal. So I feel that when you unplug from this circumstance here and you start focusing on yourself, your creativity, you will experience a newfound sense of freedom, one that is fulfilling and deeply satisfying. So I really think you should indulge yourself in your own creative projects and really move away from this circumstance here that I don't think is working for you anymore. And I think you already have. You've already moved away. Now, the man, moon, and bear can suggest attraction. I can't deny that. It might be attraction. It can mean an invitation. And it is a generally soft, kind combination. I really think attraction might be the best interpretation. But I also think that maybe an offer is possible. Some kind of appreciation for what you do is possible. And if we look at this man, and the T cross with the top row, maybe this is someone who actually admires you and they want you to stay in the picture whereas you're leaving, so they're upset that you're leaving. I have to say that is, again, a possibility. And finally, we have the mouse, book, and garden. Again, I think this can be publishing or putting work out into the world. Like a T cross is the central row where we suggested there's a lot of creative prospects for you that you want to engage in. But the mouse and book can also mean things that are not known, not having access to knowledge, not knowing what's going on. And with the garden here, I feel that maybe you are missed in this environment that we said that you're leaving. You're missed. People are wondering, where'd she go? Where's she? I think they want you around. But again, I think that you're best, focusing on yourself. I really think so. So the focus is really on your sense of your projects, your life work, your career, your ambitions, your creativity. And it is really about moving more away from social environments so you can spend time on yourself. Now, I'm not saying you're isolating yourself. I think there are some people who remain in the picture who are supportive of your creativity. But it's pretty clear to me that there are others in a broader social environment that you're going to be moving away from, and that you're actually best staying away from, at least over the coming phase, so that you establish yourself and find your foundations in these projects and these creative ventures that you're in for. So these are my thoughts so far. Now, we can add quite a bit of details from looking at the portrait cards, and these tie into the diagonals. The portraits, all of the complete portraits within the tableau here are with these cards at their center. So when we look at this central line here, this is the inner line that is inside the outer frame of the tableau, and these cards are pretty central. When we look at them, we have the key, dog, lily, and flowers and moon. I really think that you get appreciation for your work. And it's possible maybe you're in business for yourself, or you sell something, a product or a service. And I think you could receive customers and, appreciation and abundance, maybe money coming in from this. You also have supportive friends on the job and in your life. So these are the people you want to focus on. But when we look at these two corners here, I think we are looking at some relationships that need to fall out, and that's in addition to the very clear messages coming through your corner cards. So these are pretty key. Now, when we look at the portrait around the key, I think this is unlocking potential, and this is another interesting message here. If the house is considered like that group, similar to the garden, we have the snake and key that can mean that you are actually best to stay away from it. We have a clear combination here of endings, and this is the most powerful line that communicates this very clearly. But again, these are some pretty positive cards, and of course the key is an all-around success card. So it is doing the right thing to take a step back from these relationships. When we look at the portrait around the dog, there are some friendships that are questionable. The clouds is really the card that brings this into the picture. But I have to say that the rest of it is mostly positive. So maybe people are wondering where you are or what you're up to. But also, like we said, you have some supportive relationships closer to home, in your work or in other senses. And you also want to take it easy, take it easy with people, like step back, don't get too involved. The tree is a solo card. It is about taking a step back and, looking at things from a different perspective. The lily is a central card, and so the central portrait here is key. The lily is about your career, you know, with the house lily and anchor. Maybe you're doing a business from home or starting a project from home. The anchor is very encouraging. We have the woman lily and scythe. This can mean a separation, I have to say. And when we look at this triplet here, there's definitely a change, possibly even a change of residence, like we suggested. Now, this triplet here, the woman, clouds, and anchor, is interesting because it might suggest that there's an issue with this person, but that you might want to give it a chance. But also, I think it's very important not to wobble. So the clouds and anchor is a combination of wobbliness and hesitation. And I think it's really important that you do not hesitate. Okay, so don't feel like you're pulled between people or pulled to be in this space with others or not. You know, you have to make a sharp decision. You have to release yourself so that you can unleash your creativity. And that is really central to you. We have the cards around the flowers. I think these are positive changes. Someone is thinking about you. We've got the clouds, flower, and man. And again, I think even if they want you, even if they support you, even if they miss you, I really still think that this is time for you. Time for you to nurture your creativity. And we read all of these columns. And finally, the ones around the moon is yet another confirmation of maybe moving away for some time from this environment here, even though there's appreciation and people want you, you know. So clear messages, I think, clear messages. You know, they might want you and they support you, but I don't want you to miss what we read with the snake and mouse. So I think some folks are questionable, you know, and because of this column also you felt that you can't, you know, maybe you're not on the same page anymore and things like that that are causing you to sort of step back and refocus. And I think that's a really good thing because now is an opportunity to focus on your own thing. And creativity is very much in focus for you over the coming phase. So really create space for yourself and just surround yourself with supportive people so that you can actually, you know, put your stuff out there, you know, spend time doing the things that are meaningful to you away from people that are not that meaningful and even some of them that are outright questionable. So let's look also at some diagonals. We have the coffin key, man, woman, lily, scythe, moon, and garden. So again, the ending is showing through here and we see it through here as well. But I am suspecting also that you could get maybe an unexpected level of appreciation for what you're doing. It is also possible that you get help from some person, you know, with putting your work out there. When we look at the snake key house into the lily anchor and then the moon and mouse, this is interesting. And what's really interesting is this side of the diagonals. The key and house can point to property and the snake might be a deal, if that's what you're into. But it is also about getting to your goals in an indirect way. But still sticking with them because we have a powerful connection here with the lily and anchor. So really focusing on your goals. The moon and mouse is a bit tricky. The mouse can bring out the dark side of the moon. So maybe you have doubts or sometimes illusions or delusions about what you're after, but that's where the clouds and anchor come through. Really not wobbling and trying to see through everything. And I think you will, you know, I think you will. There are some unknowns that remain at play, and these could be maybe annoying you a little bit, but that is okay. It's just a process, and your creativity will flow. And also, again, we're seeing the issues, you know, with people, you know, like we saw in this column, the mouse, you know, so certainly create some healthy boundaries between you and the negative folks, you know, and also don't waste time on people, places, activities that are not essential at this time. I really think this is about you and your foundations moving forward. So there is a bit of a decluttering happening where you're moving away and taking back some space and time and, you know, just sort of moving away from certain people, creating some boundaries so that you can actually do that. We have two more diagonal sets. We have the bird into the sun, dog, stork, flowers, bear, and book. So this is actually quite lovely. I'm seeing a creative element here at play because of the flowers, bear, and book. This can be a major achievement. And the stork is a beautiful card of activity and action. And with the bird, I think there is a sense of something being published, like you put stuff out there. You know, we have the bird and the book. It's like an opening, and the garden and the moon. It's like you're reaching out to a community or doing your own thing, you know, putting your word out there, putting your stuff out there. And this is a very encouraging line where you're really encouraged to just, you know, go ahead, do this, reach out to people, put your stuff out there, express your creativity, you know, stand behind what you're capable of, you know, be willing to grow. And then the reversed one is the bird, tree, into the dog, clouds, flowers, man, and book. Now, someone is thinking about you, like we said before, and maybe this person is really thinking of reaching out to you. I'm not so sure he does that because the book tends to be closed and it is on top of the mouse. But I think there is this admiration that we talked about earlier. I think someone admires you. They are thinking about you. They want a relationship. We also have the dog, which is a card of friends and friendships. But I think there is some hesitation here. There is some hesitation. So I think for a while, this person holds off, but they have you in mind. Now, a few more indications before we wrap up the reading. We've got the inner diamond. We've got the dog, stork, flowers, and clouds. I think this is something that is happening on the inside. You're not really seeing this, but people could be talking about you. People could be, they have you in mind. They're wondering what you're up to. Maybe they're excited about what you're doing. But again, I think that because of the clouds, it's not, it's something in the air and not so much articulated. So that is something that could be happening behind the scenes and you're not seeing it. Also, more on the inside, we've got the key, stork, moon, and clouds. So again, I really think that people appreciate you and admire you. And the stork might mean that something is revealed, and actually that is what manifests on the outer diamond. We've got the bird and book. Like I said, there's that sense of publishing, something being put out there, and the stork really adds to that. And the clouds can cause a bit of commotion here, especially with a card like the bird. So I think people discover what you're up to. People discover what you're up to in this environment, and you've been away from it, and they're like, oh, you're doing this and that's so interesting. And then you have the envious and the people who are excited, or the people who are curious. So I think it causes a bit of a commotion, and there could be a bit of talk. And people wondering what you're up to, and looking at you with a bit of an envious eye, especially that you've decided to turn away and focus more on yourself and your own productivity. So overall, for this pile 3 or deck number 3 with Titania's fortune cards, I think over the coming phase, it is not so much about people, even though they're involved. This is really about you and your creativity and putting your work out there. I think you want to get serious about your creativity. I think you want to get serious about your space and your outreach, and really, putting your work out there. I don't think you should waste time on, people, places, activities, environments that are not supportive, and really just focus on the few who are, and work on building this creative project, work on your own thing, and let people around you sort of slough off, even if there are going to be some chatter or some curiosity. I mean, yes, always welcome, the kind words, but also put it in perspective. This is more about you and your productivity. So a productive, creative time with a bit of noise around you, but that is all the more reason why you should tune in and focus more on your work, your goals, and really nurturing that for yourself. So it can be really productive. And I would also think a nice discovery process where you're growing, building, and working at your stuff. So let me know how you like these ideas. Leave me your thoughts and comments. And if you've enjoyed this reading, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And tune in again, because Lenormand's cards are different, and they deliver messages in a different way than most other decks. So I really care to keep sharing that with you, so please stay in the loop. So thank you so much again for tuning in, and I am very much looking forward to our next reading together. Until then, as always, take very good care of yourself.